This week on Screen It or Stream It, a woman falls in love with a fish.
Okay, so it's like a fish. Basically, we've got a fantasy adventure by Guillermo del Toro, rated R, if you're worried about that sort of thing. Definitely do not take the kids to this one. Not for kids. So, what we've got is the story of a mute girl, which was really interesting. She played that character so well. We'll get to that in a second, though. Anyway, she's mute, and she is basically a janitor. She cleans floors and cleans up after people in some kind of a U.S. government research facility. They were really ambiguous as to what year it was, but through context clues, we figured it was around 1960, 1959, somewhere right in there. Because they were talking about the space program, but no people had flown yet, so you kind of were able to narrow it down. Anyway, so she's cleaning the floors, and it's kind of a mundane sort of job, nothing really glamorous, but there's all these like top secret things going on around her, so that was kind of a neat juxtaposition that the help are just there. And one day, this very strange creature is brought in this tank of water, and it's, I guess, like a merman, kind of, sort of.
He really does look like the creature from the Black Lagoon.
Yeah, he looks just like the creature from the Black Lagoon. He doesn't have fins. Well, he's got like webbed fingers and webbed feet, but he's got two legs, not a big fin thing. Not that kind of merman. Anyway, so the government's trying to learn what they can about him for the space program and end up kind of torturing this creature. And it makes the mute lady, I forget her name, Eliza, it makes her very upset. And it gets to a point where they don't think they're learning enough fast enough, and so they decide they're gonna just dissect him. And so she panics and has kind of a moral crisis, really, because it's a very intelligent creature, she just does not feel she can let them destroy it, and so then she has to decide, is she gonna intervene, or can she intervene? And so the story really takes off from there. I don't wanna say much more, because spoilers. We like to keep it not spoiled. So, we've got Guillermo del Toro, amazing directing. We've got all our actors. What was the other lady's name? The one that talked a lot?
Zelda,
yeah.
That was Octavia Spencer.
Octavia Spencer, of course, from Hidden Figures and The Help, actually.
So Eliza doesn't speak at all.
Right, and Zelda speaks for her, so she's kind of her translator.
Constantly.
Mm-hmm, constantly. So we've got all this good stuff, and I have to say, some of the best special effects I have seen in a while. Flawless special effects.
So it's kind of weird, because I don't know if I would call it a special effects heavy movie, but it's got to be a special effects.
It's got to be.
But there's not a lot of explosions or spaceships or whatever, but there has to be a ton of effects to make the creature work, to make the surroundings work. But they were done so well that you don't look at them and go, ooh, that was a neat effect.
Right.
It's just
there.
There
was a point, and I don't remember how far in, that I started asking myself, is that CGI or is that practical? I didn't know. I never could tell, and that's how it should be.
The amphibious man, the main character, or I guess Eliza would be the main character, but the amphibious man is this. He is a creature, although he is in human form, human shapeage.
Yeah.
But he's a creature, and I was looking at him and I was like, man, that's either like really good CGI or the best like practical effect suit ever, or a good combination of both. And I have a feeling, based on technology and stuff, it's probably a good combination of both. But it was done really, really well.
So we've got all that going for it. What are we going to rate this one?
All right, we are going to give it 4 stars.
All right. A solid 4 stars, which is, from us, pretty good rating for something we didn't have any expectations about at all.
No, and this one really, it teetered on 5 stars or 4 stars. And some of us gave it 5, some of us gave it 4. But the only reason for me, and I was on the 4-star squad, the only reason for me I went 4 was there were a few little problems with the film, but I really did love this thing. Like, I loved this movie.
Yeah.
And the one thing, like the greatest compliment I can give it is this is a piece of art. It's
Absolutely.
which is at the same time the greatest thing about it, and probably also its downfall, and the reason I didn't give
Right.
it 5 stars.
Because not everybody can handle watching art for 2 hours or 2+ hours. I
Yeah,
don't
it was
remember
like
how long it
220
was.
or something.
Yeah.
It was a long movie.
It did not feel
Didn't
long
feel like
though.
it, no.
Because it was engaging and entertaining the entire time. There was no point where I was getting bored and thinking, "Oh, should this be over?" Unlike some other movies we won't mention, Blade Runner. Sorry. Anyway,
Well, but a lot of movies, and especially when you go back and look at documentaries and things in the past, you hear about the studio interference. The producers
Yeah.
or the directors, the actors were trying to make something, and the studio comes in and says, "Oh, you can't do that.
right,
You can't
and
do
kind
this."
of torpedo stuff and mess it up.
And I really have a feeling this is not what happened in this movie. I really believe Guillermo del Toro, I mean, he wrote it, he directed it, he produced it, he voice acted in it, he
Wow.
did the screenplay. This is a passion project from him, and I really get the feeling that he was pretty much had free reign, go do what you want, and that is a great thing and a bad thing.
It can go either way easily.
It is a great thing because we really did get a piece of art. It's a beautiful movie. The aesthetics are great. The story is interesting. The characters are well done. All the actors did a very good job of portraying their characters. But then there are some weird things. I mean, it is a love story between a woman and a fish creature guy, and that in itself is odd.
Well, it's not like it's the first time we've ever seen that. The Little Mermaid talking to you.
Oh goodness! But it was kind of, when you talk about a romance
Yeah.
between a woman and not a human, that's going to be off-putting to some people, and some people are going to have a problem with that. There was some graphic violence in this, and it was not a ton of violence.
No, there wasn't.
But there was definitely some graphic violence in this, which I could see would off-put people. Where if this was a movie with studio interference, I really feel like a studio would have come in and been like, no, just take that out, tone it down.
Right.
And this thing is, like you said, it's rated R, and it's rated R for a reason. And I think it's not an action movie.
No.
It's not a shoot 'em up. But when action does happen, it is graphically bloody and graphically violent.
You feel every impact. And that's Guillermo del Toro likes to do that, and he's good at it.
And
so.
he does the macabre and the dark. And this thing has a very, if you've watched any of the other Guillermo del Toro movies, Pan's Labyrinth, Pacific Rim, they've all got this. It's a little dark, a little grimy. Okay, it's a lot dark and a lot grimy. And the aesthetic of it is definitely him.
I did not realize he did Pacific Rim. I feel bad for not knowing that.
But yeah, I can see that off-putting to some people. And what I'm trying to say is this is not a movie that someone set out and went, all right, we're going to take this thing and we're going to make $400 million. Like, I really, and it's a shame. It really is good. It's a shame people don't go to see it. But I really think when they put this out, I don't think they ever expected to make $1 billion with it, because it really was, like you said, it's a piece of art.
Yeah, and that makes it, unfortunately, a little less accessible to the average moviegoer. But hey, if there's any cinephiles out there, you probably want to go watch this one, because it's different than everything else you're seeing, and that's a treat in and of itself to me, because I mean, I love the normal, I love the adventure movie, I love the romantic comedy occasionally, not so much, but occasionally. But it's nice to see something that's really different than anything else you're seeing. And it took me a whole day to think of anything else that was even kind of like it.
My comparison, I'm just kind of okay with. And that's good.
Yeah.
We had a hard time going, this movie is just like this other movie, because it's not.
It's not. And I guess the closest, if you just strip all the trappings away, the closest thing to it is Beauty and the Beast. But
no, it's not.
It doesn't feel like Beauty and the Beast.
No, it doesn't have the feel, it doesn't have the aesthetic.
As far as
the core story,
you have a girl, she falls in love with a creature, and the villain, the actual evil beast, is actually a man who's fairly good looking. I don't know.
Think Michael Shannon's good looking?
I said fairly. He's got a very square jaw, like a superhero jaw.
Yeah, but he's got those eyes. That's why he plays a villain.
Right,
so
the eyes, kind of mess it up. But and at its nuts and bolts, that's kind of the Beauty and the Beast story, but it's so different that it took me a day to realize that connection was even makeable. But no, I would not recommend that as a comparison.
So yeah, and I feel the same way as you. If you are a cinephile, if you are a movie lover, this is a great movie, and it's a good palate cleanser. If you're tired of the big blockbuster, over the top action, which I don't get tired of, but if you get tired of that sort of thing, this is a great movie to go see. If you enjoy a little headier movie, a little more out there movie, a little weirder, this is a great one to see. On the other hand, if you're one of those people that's like, you know, if you just kind of stick to the status quo, and if it doesn't pass 100 million in opening weekend, you're not going to see it, this may not be a movie you would enjoy.
Yeah.
And so let's take it and I want to talk about like each little aspect of the making of this film, because so much of it was done so well. So we talked about Guillermo del Toro, and the more I say that, the less I'm able to say Guillermo, by the way.
Guillermo.
I can do it. Guillermo. So I can do it that way. But he does so much in this movie. But if you just talk about his directing, I love his movies. I think he's a fantastic director. I think the directing is great here. The one thing that stands out to me is whoever was their production designer or set designer and costume designer, because I was in this world. Like, I never questioned this world.
Yeah.
Everything, and so often in movies now, and you have a problem with this, I know a lot, things are just too clean. Everything's shiny and it's spick and span, and everything in this movie was weathered. It was worn. There was a little grime, a little dirt on everything, and that gives a great aesthetic, and it gives it a real feel. And when you have a fantasy movie where you've got this big fish creature that you're supposed to believe, you know, is existing right there, I think that helps, because everything else around him seems so grounded in reality.
Right, it's everything else is so believable that there's only that one thing they're asking you, well, believe this, but everything else you believe just because it looks right. And so that adds a lot of weight to what they're doing.
There was really something so beautiful, and it wasn't. It was an ugly world. Everything's dirty and grimy. And she works at night. She is the cleaning lady, or one of the many cleaning ladies at this like secret facility. So they go in at night and clean, you know, when the main guys are off. And so the movie pretty much takes place at night. So it is dark, it is grimy the entire time, but there is just something so beautiful about it. If you like the Tim Burton movies, if you like, you know, A Nightmare Before Christmas or something along those lines, you get that kind of dark aesthetic. I thought of Sleepy Hollow. I started to compare this to Sleepy Hollow, which it doesn't.
I can see that.
It kind of visually to me, but not really story-wise. But yeah, if you like that, that's what this movie gives me, and it really was just a beautiful set dressing. Everything I saw was great. The costumes, the sets, all of that was great. And then the acting too. Yeah. Because you take so Sally Hawkins is Eliza. She's the main character, and she doesn't speak.
No, she doesn't.
You take the and it's one thing again I really love is that it is a romance. It's a love story, but it is the most untypical romance story. The leading man is a fish. The leading lady is a 40-something-year-old brunette with no voice. She does not speak for the entire movie. And again, I think that leads to me thinking he probably had creative control, because I can see a studio executive right now going, wait, you want a leading lady and you don't want her to say anything for the entire film? That's not happening. But it does. But she emotes so well.
Yes, she does.
And she uses sign language when she needs to convey something, and when she needs to convey a lot of stuff. You have Zelda come in, and Zelda is her friend and also one of the cleaning ladies, and she speaks for her. And Zelda, like I said, she talks constantly, but
and usually translates exactly what is said.
Yes, most of the time. But Octavia Spencer, she does such a good job, and I feel bad. It's almost like a stereotype because she's so good at it. Like, she just created her own stereotype. She's this, cleaning lady that just gossip, but she does such a good job at it. Michael Shannon is the bad guy, and he always does a good bad guy. To me, he's a creepy looking guy, and I say that with the most respect I can.
We love you.
Yeah, it's great. And he just, he menaces. He menaces so well, and he does a great job there.
He just has to stand there and look at you.
And
that's
then,
all he has to do.
Yeah, it's kind of go, oh. And Doug Jones plays the amphibious man. I want to say that correctly. So And again, he does a great job. Doesn't speak, can't speak, doesn't speak for the entire thing. So leading lady, leading man, no spoken language between them whatsoever. But he does a great job of emoting and showing expression and showing pain and showing feelings, and just sitting down and watching great performances in a great environment. And then it's a fairly decent story. It's nothing really, besides from being so different, nothing groundbreaking, nothing really out there, but really did enjoy it. And if you like movies and you're one of those people, you like to see stuff a little bit different, please go watch it. It's really a shame that no one's seeing this. I know it's been in theaters for a few weeks now, but it is a really good movie.
The only thing I forgot to mention when we mentioned the rating, it is rated R. There is fair amount of nudity. So if you're offended by that thing, you have been warned.
And violence.
And a bit of violence. And we like violence. As long as it's tasteful. Well, you know.
I don't care.
So, if you're not feeling like going to the theaters, or if you don't think this one may be exactly for you, what do you have for a streaming option?
All right, and again, we had horrible time coming up with a comparison or something to go, hey, you should try this movie. And mine, honestly, is not 100% accurate, and I don't think you could.
No,
if you come up with something 100% accurate, I'd be like, because it is so different. But I tried to match the aesthetic.
Right.
And I think I got kind of close, and I tried to match the story, because those were two of the really important things for me. So I automatically knew there's only two guys I can think of that make movies that look like this, and that's Guillermo del Toro, it's gone, and Tim Burton. And so I went with Tim Burton, and I'm going to say Edward Scissorhands.
That's a good pick.
Edward Scissorhands is a 1990 PG-13 movie, and it stars Johnny Depp as Edward Scissorhands. And Vincent Price, the late great Vincent Price, is a mad scientist, and he creates this man that has, scissors for fingers. I don't know why he's scissor hands. He already been scissor fingers.
Well,
but so you get this weird creature, and he's in leather and he's all cut up. And while he's not a fish man, he is this weird creature. And Winona Ryder falls in love with him, and it's I don't know, I can't nail down the exact era, maybe 60s.
I think it's about in there, yeah.
But again, it's in the past, and you've got that same, it's a love story between a girl and a guy, and he doesn't speak at all, and he's got that, he's not really a man, he's kind of a weird creature thing. And so that's just it. That's as close as I could get to an actual recommendation. It is a good movie. I don't think it's as good as The Shape of Water. I thought The Shape of Water was better. But if you've seen Edward Scissorhands, you can kind of get where I'm going with the aesthetic and the feel. Yeah. If you haven't seen it, it is a good movie in itself, and it's one of those like classic Tim Burton movies, and you should go check it out.
Well, mine's more of a stretch than yours, I think.
I win.
It's not a contest.
No.
But if it were, you'd be winning.
I'm good.
The one I thought of, and it just because it felt a little off the beaten path of what you normally see. So the thing I thought of was actually The Lady in the Water, 2006, PG-13 by M. Night Shyamalan. And it's a story about this guy who I think he's just a tenant at some place, and I don't remember what his occupation is. I just have forgotten because it's been a while. But he finds this lady in the swimming pool living in the apartment complex, and she is like this mermaid fish lady. She looks like a regular lady, but she can just live under the water. And she had come to find someone, and I don't remember the exact thing, but she was supposed to find this person. And when they saw each other, he would have like some kind of a quickening or something, and it would like light some inspiration in him. Basically, she's a muse, I guess. And
I love that you called it a quickening, because we got to get highly involved.
Oh, sorry. Well, I think it was Paul Giamatti Giamatti. I'm sorry, is the leading guy, and he helps her. Bryce Dallas Howard helps her find the guy who was played by M. Night Shyamalan, actually. And so then she has to get home, and there's these evil like grass dog creatures that are hunting her down, and it turned out to be just this really interesting and kind of dark fairy tale, because when those grass dogs showed up, people actually died. So, and it was just, it had I don't want to say charm, but I don't know, it's just a little different. It was different than what you normally see, and it was interesting, a lot more tame. The violence wasn't as graphic as in The Shape of Water, but Lady in the Water is it's an interesting story. It's fun. Not really much on the love story side on that one.
Hey, they're both in the water. So
but they're both in the water, so that's what you get. So, Anyway, that is all our time today. Thanks so much for watching Screen It or Stream It.
And remember, don't take your kids to the movies on Tuesday nights because that's when we go.